devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test. Jimmy Murphy and Pierre McGuire here on a much better connection, knock on wood, than yesterday for me. Pierre, amazing job with Mr. Jeff Gorton of the Montreal Canadiens yesterday. That was a wonderful interview. Lots of great tidbits from him. Really appreciate Jeff's candor, his appreciation of what we're doing and of the game. And also, he's got a great sense of humor. I always enjoyed talking to Jeff Gorton.
Well, first of all, you set it up, so thank you to you. We missed you very much through most of that interview because I think you would have reached out and even got more out of him. That being said, what I appreciated the most out of that interview, and you talked about it, the way he told the truth. There was no rush to judgment, and all these other speculators out there that were writing stuff about players being hurt and all these different time frames on the injury. I learned a long time ago at NBC, you make sure you don't think you're a doctor. You better know you're a doctor.
Yeah.
If you're not a doctor, don't be talking about injuries. And don't believe what people report to you. You know, that we call it the silly season in the coaching business. When the playoffs start and everybody starts telling you, oh, this guy's going to be out, 3 games, or that guy's going to be out 4 games. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Never believe anybody that reports injury information to you. And the other thing that's really important, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, there's a lot of disinformation at playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're foolish enough to believe, and you may have the most perfect source in your own mind, somebody that's your friend, and they still might tell you a lie or a fib, if that's nicer, if it makes you feel better, fib.
I will say one thing, and I agree with everything you just said, but I don't want to discredit the work that our good friend and colleague here at Sick Media, Tony Marinaro, did. He went with a source, and we both know how connected Tony is and the hard work he does to achieve those connections. And he was the only one who had the time frame right on David Reinbacher. Of course, Patrick Laine's timetable has not been released yet, but the Canadiens did confirm Tony's report yesterday of an estimated 5 to 6 months out. And of course, Reinbacher had surgery today. As for Laine, like I just said, we don't know, Pierre. We don't know what's going on there. But I wanted to quickly, before we're going to preview the Sabres, Red Wings, and Senators. So I want to get into that because we got 3 teams there. But quick story. In 2010, Pierre, Bruins Flyers, the series that the Bruins blew the 3-0 lead in.
Yeah, David Krejci broken wrist.
Okay, so I'm not going to say my source, of course, and to this day I will never say it. But it's a very trusted source. It's someone you and I both know, and I think I've told you this story, so you might already know what I'm talking about. But I get a call as I'm walking out of the arena from this source telling me Krejci's done. He's done for the playoffs. Will not tell me the injury. He said, I'm trying to get that for you. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But he is done for the playoffs. Stand by. Once I get the injury, you can run with it. And I was walking out of, I forget what they called it then. What's it called now, that arena, Pierre?
Oh,
is it Wells Fargo? Yeah, it's at $1 million. Is it still Wells Fargo? I don't even know.
It probably is. Probably still Wells Fargo.
Joe Haggerty and I are walking out, and I said, Bruins are going to lose the series. And, of course, I'm not telling Joe what the info I'm getting. He's like, you're nuts. They're up 3-1. It's no big deal. Or up 3-0. It was game 3. And I said, I'm telling you, they're going to lose the series. And then game 7, I was walking out with him. And how did you know that? And I said, I knew Krejci was done. I never ran with the story, Pierre. You know why? Because I felt like, you never know that 1%. The source could be wrong. And also, I just felt like it would be too obvious who the source might be. And I didn't want to betray his confidence. And so I just sat on that. But I've been in situations like that, and you're right. You can't guess when it comes to injuries. Trades are a whole different story to me, but when it comes to injuries, you're better off not guessing. Just let the team announce it. Let them confirm it. You know it's bad. We all saw it. We don't know what it's going to be, but we know it can't be good. So I'm with you.
I was 15 feet away from it when it happened.
The Krejci?
Yeah, I was 15 feet away from it.
So you knew exactly what was going on.
I knew exactly what it was. Yeah. I broke my left wrist 3 times in college. And I never missed a game, just so you know, Jimmy. And I can tell you, it's a painful injury.
Of course.
And
especially in hockey.
Yeah, it's a very painful injury. And I saw that happen. I'm like, oh, I know what he's going through. That's
good. And you knew that that was a turning point in that series. I
Yep.
don't care what anyone says.
Yep,
But
yep.
getting to current times, before we get to the preview, we were unable to address it together yesterday. I just want to get your quick thoughts on the Jeremy Swayman situation that has now kind of gone off the rails with Cam Neely mentioning, and I have no problem with what he said, saying that he would have 64 million reasons to play if he was Jeremy Swayman, pretty much confirming what you and I have been reporting here, that the best offer that they've given is 8 times 8. And then Swayman's agent, Louis Gross, taking to Twitter last night and basically calling Cam Neely a liar and saying that they're going to take a few days to digest what's going on. Pierre, you've been in these situations, more so on the management side. How do you go forward when things start to kind of go sideways like this?
There's going to have to be a cooling off period. So I'd be really surprised if Jeremy Swayman, if the Bruins keep him, I'm not saying they're trading him, but if the Bruins keep him, I don't know if he'll play the home. I don't even know if he'd be dressed for the home, their home opener.
Right.
I have no idea. I know they've
Which
already.
is a week from Thursday. Their season opener is a week from today, just so everybody knows. In Florida,
so
then they come back and play the Habs.
Yeah, so and I know everybody's speculating that Korpisalo has already been told probably there's going to be the starter opening night. All I'm going to say is there's going to be a cooling off period, and if not, there's got to be cooler heads prevailing. The other thing too is Cam Neely and Don Sweeney. And I know both guys really well, Jimmy.
Yep.
And I respect both men a lot. They don't work for the NHLPA now. They work for Jeremy Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
They work for the Boston Bruins.
Yep.
So, going after them, as some people have chosen to do, don't understand negotiation and don't understand being employed as a management person.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they were card-carrying members of the NHL Players Association, and proudly so for Donnie and Cam, for sure.
Yes.
But they don't work for them anymore. Like they're not players anymore. And at a certain point, your career's over. And you either choose to go into the agency business if you want to, or you go become an entrepreneur, or you retire, or you work for a team.
Mm-hmm.
And when you work for a team, you work for an owner.
And essentially the league.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so taking gratuitous pot shots at them, I don't think is appropriate, personally. And I would just say this. I know that you and I spoke about this probably a month and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I have I like both sides.
We both like Jeremy Swayman. Yeah.
I'll never forget the first time I met Jeremy Swayman. I was right outside the Bruins dressing room. He had just signed from University of Maine, and we were in doing the game, Doc Emmerich, Eddie Olczyk, and I, and Jeremy and I had the most fascinating conversation. It was awesome. It was great. And he did most of the talking. I did most of the listening. It was fantastic. I really appreciated him then. Mm-hmm. But I will just tell you that as soon as he said it, you can go check our tapes.
Yep.
When he said that, I want to make sure that I'm kind of the benchmark for other goalies. And now I'm paraphrasing, but pretty close, right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Pretty close. When he said that, I remember what I said to you, Jimmy. And I said it on the air, and I said it to you away from the air. And I said, I'm not sure that's a good thing that he just said. And because I know how the Jacobs do business.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going to put that statement, put upper management, not ownership, put upper management in a tough position.
I agree. And I don't know this for fact. This is just my guess, is that I would imagine once that statement was made, and once Swayman made it clear that to him it wasn't just about him and the team, it was about him and the NHLPA and resetting the goalie market. And then also, remember Shesterkin only a week ago or 10 days ago jumping in and telling, I believe it was the New York Post, might have been our good friend Molly Walker, I'll have to double check, but saying that I'm waiting on Swayman to see where that goes before I start to negotiate. So clearly this has become more than that. And this is him trying to set the market, set the table for some guys that are going to get paid more than him right now and guys that are going to come after him. And as you just pointed out, and you pointed out when it happened, Pierre, Jeremy Jacobs isn't just an owner. Jeremy Jacobs is the owner in the NHL. He holds a lot of weight. And he's very I don't know what the percentage would be. You could probably estimate more than me, but he is a big part of why we have a salary cap in the NHL. So I don't want to just say I'm against what Swayman wants to do or what he wanted to do, but I will say this maybe just wasn't the place to, or just don't say it, just do it. This wasn't the time to do it because you're dealing with a guy that, as we've seen in the past, whether it's been arguments with other owners or arguments with players or what have you, he can hold a grudge sometimes. Marty LaPointe comes to mind when he had a little disagreement with Mike Illick, and he signed a third-line player at the time to an astronomical contract for third-line players in that time just to get back at the Red Wings. So you don't want to pick a fight with Jeremy Jacobs, and that's what I thought when it happened, and I think we're seeing that unfold right now.
Yeah. So again, we're like, you and I are Switzerland here. We're neutral.
We are
between it all. We haven't.
I think Jeremy Swayman's a great person too. I really do. I think he's sincerely a good person. He's intelligent.
This now, because I'm going to make you say it, even if you don't believe it. You respect what Jeremy Jacobs has accomplished as an owner in the National Hockey League.
Yes, I do.
He's done an unbelievable. His family has done an unbelievable job as owners of the Boston Bruins.
Yes,
they have. You know, the Boston Celtics, you know the building they play in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they pay rent to the Boston Bruins. They pay rent to the Jacobs.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you do a formula of evaluating, you know, ownership, forget playing, ownership, they've done for their ownership group, Delaware North, they've done an amazing job.
Yeah,
doesn't mean people like the way they do business, but is their business successful?
No.
You're darn right it is. So Jimmy and I aren't picking sides here, but this is important. When you're a player, you play. You hire somebody to negotiate for you.
Mm-hmm.
You never saw Bergeron talk when he had his deals. You didn't see Marchand talk when he did his deals. You didn't see Chara talk when he did his deals.
Pasternak.
You didn't see Pasta talk. And I'm just talking Boston now. I'll go to Tampa. One of the biggest ones that everybody talked about was Steven Stamkos.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see Stamkos talk. You didn't see Donnie Meehan talk. You didn't see Steve Yzerman talk. Mm-hmm. You didn't see Jeffrey Vinnick talk, the owner in Tampa. All these big deals, when they get done, they get done.
Yep.
Nobody talks.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, I was part of a big one in Ottawa recently. Brady Tkachuk.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talked.
No.
Was there a lot of
I can tell. Here, I hope I'm not a line saying this, but I'm defending you, guy. For everyone listening and watching too, trust me, as the reporter Jimmy Murphy was trying to pry as much information as I could from my good friend Pierre McGuire, and mum was the word. He knew. Nope, you're not getting anything from me, Jimmy.
And so, look, if I was going to give it to anybody, I'd probably give it to you, but you can't. So you can't when you do these things. And I know people want the end. I get it. I'm a fan too. Like, trust me. You know, I work with Jimmy now, and I work for some different radio stations, and I'm doing some other consulting stuff for different teams in different parts of the world. It's okay. But I won't talk about my business because it's not my role. Mm-hmm. You know, if I was in charge of the public relations department, or if I wanted to be, you know, a mean-spirited agent that wants to pick a fight all the time, I would go public with a lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think that's how you can, you know, put pressure on the opponents when it comes to negotiating. But I think I talked to you about this the other day, and we'll start focusing in on hockey. But the other day, I think I told you, there are 3 different timelines that aren't artificial. They're real.
Training camp.
Start the training camp.
The season.
The regular season.
And December 1st.
December 1st.
Yep.
There are 3 departure points that matter.
Mm-hmm.
So we're already past one. The next one coming up is opening night of the NHL.
A week from tonight.
And then the next one is December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say this. If he's not in a uniform, like an NHL uniform practicing, probably by the 3rd week of October, I think it's going to be tough for him to beat Jeremy Swayman.
Interesting too, Pierre. Brad Marchand spoke publicly to the media today about it. Just, you know, took the hire. They'll figure it out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But Flutus Shinzawa in The Athletic spoke to a player off the record who he agreed to grant remain anonymous.
Okay.
And I don't know if you saw the quote, but he said, for now, there's no issue. But I won't lie. If we get off to a bad start, players could start to turn on Swayman.
So
And
he said they weren't going to turn on the management; they would turn on the goalie. See, I haven't seen that. That's an interesting. So that would go against what all these a lot of people are speculating. I'm talking about hockey people. I'm not talking about fans. I respect the fans. Fans can say whatever. They can have their own opinion. I'll always respect them, whether I like them or dislike their opinion. I'll always respect that because they're the fan. But there are people making their living in hockey saying, well, shameful of Sweeney and Neely for saying that stuff. Well, if players are saying that in an off-the-record conversation, that kills that other stuff because they're supporting the management and the team.
Yep. This was the exact quote here. The only time I could even see it getting a little bit weird, said one player, grant anonymity, speak freely about a teammate and his employer, would be if we didn't start out well and we felt like he could be helping us. That's the exact quote.
So I personally, this is painful. I've only been through one of these really, and that was Mark Recchi back in Pittsburgh. So that was hard. Obviously, you win a cup with a player, you spent a lot of time on the ice with the player, you like the player, and he's holding out. And Craig Patrick and Scotty found a way to get that deal done with Ricky Curran at the time. And Ricky was so professional. The agent for Mark was so professional. And they got it done. But I can tell you, it took a lot for Craig to get that done. And he did. He got it. And this is before the cap.
Yeah.
But he did. He got it done, and it was great. It worked out great. And, eventually the team won another cup. And Mark got traded. He was part of a huge trade to help the team solidify itself. But I remember that. That was tough because there were players wanting, like, what's he going to get? When's he coming back? Is he going to be in shape? And it was hard because the year before, not even 4 months before, they had all won the cup together. It's a tough thing. It's really tough. Yeah.
I just hope they resolve it soon. And, like Marchand said today, we can all forget about it, move on. You never like to see both sides. And look, I think that I don't think there's bad will or hard feelings between Neely / Sweeney and Swayman. I think they really like the kid and they want him on the team, and Swayman wants to be. It's just sometimes you get into this and you don't want to back off your stance. And
let me ask you one question. You talked about Louis Gross. You're the one that brought his name up. I knew he was the agent for Swayman. He also was the agent for Torrey Krug.
Yes. Yep.
How much is there carryover on that, do you think? Because I don't know. I have no idea.
So I wondered when this all began, even going back to the middle of last season when, people were wondering, are they going to start some talks with Swayman? And it wasn't happening. I didn't hear anything. I don't know for a fact, but that did get one in my mind for sure, Pierre. And I think I said it to you at the end of the season. I said, I don't know if I like where this is going because of the history between Sweeney and Gross. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know that there is bad blood, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's a little left over from that. And then, of course, as we mentioned before, he was also William Nylander's agent in 2018, which to this point, since the salary cap was instituted in the NHL, was the longest a contract battle went. And that went right down to the deadline at 3 p.m. on December 1st, 2018.
Oh, I remember.
I'm hoping, Pierre, it's going to be, it could be real ugly if this doesn't happen, but I'm really hoping that when we go to Northern Ireland and you and I are flying on that wonderful plane to the Friendship 4, to Dublin, to Kildare, and then to Belfast, that we can talk about some great performances by Jeremy Swayman and the Boston Bruins that'll be November 24th. So I would hope it's done by then. But speaking of that, Pierre, really looking forward to it. A lot of people have been asking me about it. Some people, saying we're going to try and get over there. It's starting to really generate a lot of buzz. And, of course, I urge everybody to check out the amazing interview we had with Joe Battaglia, a longtime BCAC and Hockey East commissioner, and also a member of the board of the Friendship 4, who does a lot for spreading the word and really advancing this tournament over the years. Looking forward to hanging out with him up there. But very excited. And, obviously a shout out to Sarah Stanton as well with Cara Travel and to the folks at the Belfast Giants. Pierre, I am definitely looking forward to that. So let's hope we have some Swayman shutouts to talk about by that point.
Am I going to let you wear that scally cap over there?
Oh, I hope so. We might have to get a new one.
We'll have to decide.
Yeah, we'll have to get a new one maybe while we're there.
It's all good. I can't wait to get there. It's an interesting time of the year because it's Thanksgiving for the Americans. But what I'd say is if you look at the teams going over, Notre Dame is going to be a good team. It's Jeff Jackson's last year as a head coach there. He's going to retire. Teddy Donato's in his 20th year at Harvard, and they're expecting their young players to really elevate. And then you obviously look at Merrimack with Scotty Borick, and he's got an interesting crew in there. They've been very aggressive in the portal this year, and they brought in some really good young players. And then BU, I think Jay Pandolfo. And Jay's been on our show before. Jay's done a phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting. We talked to Jeff Gorton about it yesterday. Jeff's son, Jack, plays on that team. Kent Hughes' son, Jack, plays on that team as well at BU. Cole Eiserman is a part of that team. Matt Vilander, the defenseman, is there. He's a very good player. They've got some really interesting stuff going on there. This is going to be probably athletically, Jimmy, probably the best friendship four they've had in a long time. They've had 16 of them. Athletically, this probably will be the best one.
Yeah, and I love the mix of schools they continue to put over there. So looking forward to it. Let's get into our previews here as we continue the Adams division. Of course, yesterday with Jeff Gorton was the Montreal Canadiens, who we both agree with their hockey ops staff that they will be in the mix for a playoff spot. Whether they make it or not, we're not going to say, but we definitely think they're in the mix. And I would think you agree with me, Pierre, that I think these three teams we're talking about today, the Buffalo Sabres, Detroit Red Wings, and the Ottawa Senators, are going to be in that mix. To me, it's going to be a mix of four amongst them to deepen this season. I think they all have a very valid shot to make some big noise in the Eastern Conference and in the Atlantic Division. Let's start in Buffalo, Pierre, with a team, new coach, Lindy Ruff. It's gotten to the point, I think, where we agree if it doesn't happen this year, if they don't get over that hump and finally make the playoffs for the first time since 2011, there could be some changes upstairs. I think Lindy Ruff, he just got here, so I don't know if they'd send him packing right away, but there could be some changes, and not just upstairs, on the ice as well, where they might have to just say, reevaluate the young core that they built and said, okay, maybe these aren't the guys that we need as our core. But they are what they are right now, Pierre, and your take on what they need to do to finally make that step.
Last year, they only scored, not only, but they scored 246 goals. My Mendoza line is 250.
Yep.
So they're 4 goals shy. Do I think they can make it up? Yeah, and one guy I think that can do it is J.J. Peterka. I think if they play him with Tage Thompson and Alex Tuck, they could have a legitimate first line, and that could do some serious damage. And then that opens up, if Jack Quinn stays healthy, that opens them up with Dylan Cousins and Zach Benson to have a really good second line. So I think that's really important. Getting Ryan McLeod from Edmonton for Jeffrey Skinner, I think gives them a really good checking third-line center, a really important player for them. And if Sam Lafferty's playing in the 4-hole, that's another really good energy checking type player. So I think they've got their bases covered. But I think they've got to get to that 250 goal line. If they don't get over that, Jimmy, I don't know if they can make it. I think their goals against will be responsible. They'll be between 235 and 245. Last year they were 244. So that's good enough to get you in. But you got to get to that 250. And if they don't get to that 250, I don't know if they can make it.
Pierre, Kevin Adams heading into the season right now, and I don't think anything's coming soon, but as of now, as we speak, he's got literally just a hair under $7 million in cap space at $6,999,000. I look at that lineup and I go to the blue line. If there was a spot, I don't know, we get to Thanksgiving, right? American Thanksgiving. And he's like, all right, we've been letting in a little too many goals. I look at that blue line. I think there could be maybe one more defensive stay-at-home guy that they could use. Are you in agreement with me on that?
I am, but I think internally they might have it in Owen Power. I think Owen could have,
You think he's taking another step?
Yeah, just take it up another level. I thought last year at the end of the year he was starting to do that, let's also remember too, Rasmus Dahlin has been named captain of the team. So that's
Congratulations,
an
Yep.
exciting thing for a young player, and you could see the pride that he has in being a Buffalo Sabre and being named captain by Lindy. So I think that's really important. Bowen Byron coming over last year at the
That's
trade
where I was going to go.
deadline for Middlestat, Jimmy. I think that was a good move for him. I coached this player's father, Matthias Samuelson. You know, I had Shell in Pittsburgh. Shell was great. I can't say enough good things about Shell, and I hope he's watching. He knows what I think of him. I loved coaching him. I really did. He was tough as nails. He was really mean. It was really fun to coach. He was good. But Matthias, I think, is ready to take another step too. So there's some good stuff there on the back end. My concern is Quinn was hurt for most of last year, and he's an important player there. I talked about Paterka. I think Paterka is going to have a huge year.
Yep.
If Quinn can stay healthy, I think they're kind of in a good spot, and I do think they'll be better. But again, they're going to have to get over that 250 goal mark. And if they don't, Jimmy, they're not making it. They got to get 250 or more.
You watched Devin Levi play a lot before he reached the NHL. What do you think right now? Pierre, I don't know. You might disagree with me. I felt like he was rushed a bit into the NHL, and the hype was a little too much, and it kind of overwhelmed him at times. But now that he's sort of through that and he's come out the other side, I feel like this could be huge for him. And they need him to take another step this season, don't they?
They do. But I think if Ukko-Pekka Laukkanen can stay healthy and Devin can stay healthy, and they have James Reimer there as a third goalie, which is critical. He's a veteran guy, and he's unflappable, and he's a quality person.
James Reimer, he's on a two-way?
I don't know that.
Double check it. Okay.
Yeah, he might be, but all I'm going to say is that really doesn't matter because he's going to be put on waivers anyway, so it really doesn't matter. If he has to go down, they're putting him on waivers. He'll get picked up. But all I would say is this, is that with Levi and Luukkonen, they're good. They're fine. I don't think goalie's the issue there. I don't. I just think it's keeping guys healthy. It's getting the right roles created. That's why I like the hiring of Lindy, and I told you that. I know a lot of people kind of poked holes at Lindy. I've coached against Lindy, both as an assistant and as a head coach, and he learned from the right people. You know, he learned from Roger Nielsen. He learned from Scotty Bowman. He learned from a lot of people. And I really respect Lindy. And I know we talked about this, and this is something that I haven't read anywhere, but it's really important. They went overseas. They're playing over in the Czech Republic now. They stopped in Germany on the way, stopped in Paterka's town and played a game, and Paterka played really well. Those trips can bring you together. You know, you were part of one in 2011 when Boston went over there. They played in Belfast and they played in Prague.
Yep.
So you were with the guys, and you know how that brought that.
I saw it happen. Yep.
You did. You were there. I think that could happen for Buffalo if the trip goes well. It's the same thing. Jersey's over there.
Yeah.
If the trip doesn't go well for Jersey, there could be repercussions coming out of that trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
So both these teams, and it's interesting because the old coach in New Jersey is the new coach in Buffalo. So
he's going to want to win.
You know what he wants.
Yeah.
Exactly what he wants to do.
Yep.
So I think it's interesting the way it's starting, but I'm never going to short sell Buffalo because I'm a huge fan of the town. Love the people there in Western New York. They're real fans. They're real fans, Jimmy. Like,
they are.
Not a lot of corporate tickets there. Those people pay their own money to go. And I've had a lot of great experiences in Western New York over the course of my playing career in college and my coaching and scouting career. And broadcasting career too. So I'm a fan of Buffalo. I've always been a fan.
You said it too. I don't know when it was, last week or week before Buffalo came up and Lindy Ruff came up. And you said another great thing about bringing him back is he oozes Buffalo. He loves that place. It's part of him. And I can imagine when he got the opportunity to take that job and he took like the pride that must have been going through him and still going through him, and how much he knows what it would mean to those fans to get them back to the playoffs. That means something. I know, it sounds cheesy and it's hyperbole and it's cliche, but to me, I think that means something. And I think we'll see that in the way he handles things.
I'm so proud of you for saying that because that does matter. So the one thing about Lindy, he could walk into Gabriel's Gate, which has amazing wings in downtown Buffalo, and everybody will know who he is, and he'll be comfortable in that environment.
Yeah.
He could walk into the Buffalo Chop House, and it's a little bit higher end, but everybody will know him there, and he will be very comfortable there. He could go walk into Chef's.
Yep.
He could go walk into Chef's, some of the best Italian food you're going to eat. And I've been eating at Chef's for probably 35 years, whatever. And he could walk in there, and he would be comfortable. He'd be signing autographs. He'd be kissing babies. He'd be shaking hands. He's an everyday man. He's a Buffalonian. He is. He's a Buffalo guy. They needed that.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Donnie Granato.
No.
Friend of mine, real good friend. Their family. I love the family. But Donnie's a Madison guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's a Chicago guy.
Yeah.
Lindy Ruff's a Buffalo guy.
He gets it.
He does. He just gets it.
Well, we're going to stick in the Atlantic Division, or as I see some in our comment section still want to call it the Adams. I'm right with you on that. But one team that wasn't part of the Adams is going to we'll talk about right now, and that's a team that Pierre worked for, and that's the Ottawa Senators, who I don't know if you're going to say, okay, give me one out of these three, who's going to do it? Who's going to get to the playoffs? I'm always going between Detroit and Ottawa, but right now I'm leaning Ottawa. And I think that the addition of Linus Ullmark is going to be great. I think the fact he's going into a contract year, we've seen what it can do for guys, especially goalies. You're going to have a big year fighting for a contract. I think he's going to fit in well there. He's got an easygoing personality. It will help them because I think we can agree, Pierre. I mean, there's been a lot of expectations on that team over the last few years, waiting for them to take that next step. And I would imagine, the grip on the stick gets a little tight at times, or the atmosphere gets a little tight, and that can be tough. So you bring in a guy like Linus, who's kind of laid back, fun-loving. He'll be good for them. And the skill's there. The skill is there. The only thing I look at, my biggest question mark, and I'm just said it like Buffalo, is their blue line. Are they ready to tighten up and think a little more defense than offense?
Last year, they scored 255 goals, so they were over 250, which they had to be. And I used to talk to DJ Smith about this all the time, the former head coach. And he said it was critical for their team, and it was. And that was the first time, and DJ wasn't there the whole year, but it was the first time since DJ had been there that they got over 250. The problem is to your point, they gave up 281, so their goal differential was minus 26.
Yep.
If they get that goals against down to where Buffalo was last year, let's say 244, 245, your point about them being in the playoffs, they're in business. Because I think they're going to score more than 260 goals this year.
Yeah.
I think Kachuk's going to have a huge year. I think Stützle's going to have a huge year. I think Batherson's going to be better. Ridley Gregg's going to be better. Offensively, Ridley Gregg's a good player, but offensively, I think he'll be better. Josh Norris has to stay healthy with that shoulder. Claude Giroux's moving from center to the wing. We'll see. Shane Pinto, I think, is going to be one of the better third-line players in the league, which is really good for them. And they're going to and adding David Perron was really good for them offensively. Yep. So there's a lot to like. Your point is the nail to the hammer. Mm-hmm. Are they deep enough on defense? Are they going to be good enough on defense? I don't care how good the goaltending is.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Agree. The goaltending is going to be better.
I don't care how well Ullmark plays. I don't care how well Forsberg plays. Is the defense good enough, Jimmy?
Yeah.
And then is it going to be deep enough? Because Jimmy, Shabbat injured a lot. Sanderson hasn't been injured, but he's going to be targeted. Tyler Clevin is a young guy who I know really well. I tried to get him out of there 3 years ago at Dakota. And the way we did it was above board. I went and met Brad Berry, and I told him at lunch, I said, I'm here to try to get Tyler Clevin out of school, and I want you to know it's nothing personal. We just need him. We need him to be on the fast track to develop. Bernard Docker is, I think, a young, useful player, and Travis Hammonick's older, but he's very popular around that team. But they got to keep guys healthy on defense. They're not deep enough. They're just not deep enough on defense. So that's going to be the biggest thing for Travis Green and the new coaches there.
All right, and then you could segue there. I was just going to bring up, what does Travis Green bring to them why you think he was hired there. What is he going to do for the Ottawa Senators?
Well, I think Stales knows him. The general manager and president of hockey operations, Stevie Stales, he knows him. Davey Poulin knows him, who's, I think a senior vice president is his title, but more like an assistant GM. So I've known Travis a long time. I'm a big fan of his. He played for Al Arbor. He played for Butchie Goring. He played for Pat Quinn.
Yep.
His pedigree, who he played for, is really good. And I've talked a lot of X's and O's with Travis over the years, and I'm a big fan of the way he carries himself. I think the guy that's going to have more scrutiny in a good way is Nolan Baumgartner. Nolan, was with him in Vancouver when they had some good stuff going on. He was with him in Utica. He's with him here. And Nolan was a useful defenseman. I think he understands the position, and I think he can make Clevin better. I think he can make Shabbat better defensively. Getting Nick Jensen from Washington was a good step for their defense too. So the coaches can make a difference there. They can. Yeah. But, Jimmy, it comes down to those kids wanting to buy in. They were sold they were going to be a run-and-gun team, and now I think they're realizing run-and-gun hasn't worked. So now they got to tighten it up defensively. Yep,
I'm with you on that. All right, let's go to our final team here of the day, the Detroit Red Wings, Pierre. Another team, the eyes are playing. It's, what are we, in the fourth or fifth year? I think it was fourth. Yeah, so we're getting there. I mean, it's a fifth year, of the eyes are playing there. I like a lot of what's gone on there, but they've had some injuries. Sometimes, just like Ottawa, they haven't always bought into what's being sold to them, whether it's from the coaching staff or management. What do they need to do? And what's the biggest thing you want to see from the Detroit Red Wings to take that next step?
Play D and get some saves. Yeah, they went out and got Cam Talbot. They still have Alex Lyon there. They still have Ville Husso there.
4 goalies.
They got Sebastian Casa, who's probably going to start in Grand Rapids. He was, he's a good player. I saw him play a lot with the Edmonton Oil Kings in the Western Hockey League. They got Carter Gylander out of Colgate University. So, I mean, they got a lot of goalies. But they need their defense to insulate the goalies. You need their forwards to come back and help. Jimmy, last year they gave up 274 goals. They gave up 30 more goals in the Buffalo Sabres.
Yep.
30 more. They scored a lot. They scored 278. So their differential was 4. They had 91 points. So of Ottawa, of Buffalo, and of Detroit had the most points. And the only reason they didn't make it last year is because their number one center was out 2.5 weeks.
And their captain.
Dylan Larkin.
Yep.
If he stays healthy.
They're in.
So Edvinson, who I've been talking about last year, I couldn't believe he wasn't playing more. So he's going to play in the top 4 there. Moritz Seider should be, an all-star player there. Their depth on defense is not great. It's okay.
It gets pretty old after those two.
But that's what I'm saying. So that's where the forwards got to help out. So it's not just about the D, it's about the forwards too. But they're going to score enough. And if they can get from 91 points to 97 or 98, they'll make it.
Yep. I'm with you on that. All right, let's before we head over to our Q&A with all our wonderful fans over here in the comments section, let's talk about Betway. I was on there looking today at some of the baseball playoffs starting up here. It's October in the MLB. I don't know if I told you, it's my second favorite team growing up with the Detroit Tigers, and they're looking pretty damn good right now.
You're not old enough to remember Mickey Lolich. I know that.
No, I'm from the. I started watching them when my dad would know him. He was a huge Tigers fan. My dad.
So when I got in, not old enough for him either.
Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker. Those are my guys.
That's a little different. That's a different vintage. There you go.
There we go. So, and you know what? I'm predicting this now. Here's a little bold prediction. It's not hockey, but I'll give you my World Series prediction, and maybe you can go over there and get some good value over at Betway. I'm going to give you a rematch of the 1984 World Series. I think the Tigers are the Cinderella team. They're going to go all the way to the World Series, but then unlike 1984, they're going to lose to the San Diego Padres. That's my prediction. Padres, Tigers in the World Series.
Okay.
And I'm guaranteeing you can get some pretty good value on Betway there because Betway is your leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct there. Don't follow Murph's. Go with Betway. Go to betway.com or scan that QR code. Pull that up again, boys, if you could. It'll be right up there on the screen if you're watching. There it is, to join the action. Or like we said, go to betway.com. And remember, you must be 18 plus and always play responsibly. So I don't know if playing responsibly is Padres, Tigers. But, hey, go have some fun. See what you can do over there. Let's have some fun with you guys right now in the Q&A. What do we got? Marvin Matthews, Pierre, in your coaching experience, how difficult is it to find the right words to motivate, inspire your players when a valuable teammate is injured long-term? That's a great question, Mark.
It is. It's not very hard. Players respond usually to the messaging because they know that could have been them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every player that suits up before every game knows somebody, it's potentially getting hurt pretty seriously. It's just the nature of the game. You don't think about it, but you know it's there. But usually when it's an important – any player, nobody likes to see any – and I will say that comfortably. Any player there. I'll give you an example. I was coaching in Hartford, and Calgary was in. Dave King was coaching Calgary. I was in Hartford, and Patrick Poulin, actually. Patrick Poulin ran over Al McInnes, and Al had an awful hip injury, and he was in the hospital in Hartford for a long time. And it was almost career-ending, believe it or not. But eventually he found his way. And Brian Burke, who was at that time no part of the Calgary Flames, he was our boss in Hartford. He made sure Al had the best of everything. And our players saw that. And this is a player on another team. And our players saw that. And I think they really respected what Brian did there. And it carried forward. We weren't the greatest team because we were going through a start of a rebuild. And it really was the start of a rebuild. We had 86 guys in training camp that year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because Berkey wanted to try to find, these unearthed gems. And anyways, I really remember that, and it stuck with our players. And then obviously Brian left to go work with Gary Bettman, so a lot of things changed. But that was one of those lessons where I said you could tell the GM had experience because he was looking after a player in the other team in a good way, and it was really positive.
That's class. It's pure class. And I just want to mention before we move on from that too, I don't know if you saw his comments, Pierre. Marty St. Louis, I think it was yesterday, or it might have been right after.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah. Just the way he said, ever since I came in here, we're trying to make this feel like a second home for the players, like truly a family. And he said, I know what he's going through. It's horrible. But when I looked up and I saw Line A in the stands smiling after everything that just happened, he says, I think we're getting to that point where we're accomplishing that goal. And it's so important. It's so important to make those guys. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago, Pierre, and you agreed with me 100%. When these guys are out long-term, you can't let them feel alienated. You need to make them still feel part of the team. I don't know how you do it, but you got to do it. And it really helps them recover better because it keeps them mentally in the game. Yeah.
Well, St. Louis had the great line, everybody builds a house, but it's got to become a home. It's got to become a home.
Yep. Perfect. So, good for him. All right. Next question. John Smith, how much of a faux pas to Neely commit in talking about numbers to the media during contract negotiations? You don't see that happen much. I mean, president of hockey ops losing it like that. Pierre, you want me to go first or you want to go?
You go first.
Okay. John, I love your questions, but with all due respect, I 100% disagree. I think that was very calculated. I don't think he lost his cool or anything. I think that was discussed beforehand with him, with Don Sweeney, with Charlie Jacobs, and maybe via phone with Jeremy Jacobs. Going back to what Pierre and I were saying off the top of the show, when Swayman said what he did a month and a half ago, it didn't sit well, I don't think. And I think this was their opportunity to kind of set the tone a bit and lay down the law a bit on their end. And I have a little more of a gripe with what the agent did. But I know he's just trying to protect his client. I understand it. But, when you intimate that a Hall of Fame player and somebody as prestigious in the NHL has came in and you essentially call him a liar, I don't think that's cool at all. And I can tell you from everything I heard, he's not lying. I know there's other reports out there and it was 7.8 a year. There's other reports that wasn't even that high. I trust my sources. Cam Neely's not lying.
Well, I'm not going to get into that game. So I'm going to just get into this game. Cam Neely never would have said that unless
he was given a green light.
There was a green light given.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's
listen,
the way I look at it.
Everybody's got their turf to defend. So at some point, as we talked about, you get closer to the line.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bruins have decided we've gone close enough, and now we're not going any further. Mm-hmm. And you guys want to join us? Come on over. But this is where it's going to be. Where it starts to get scary, we talked about it. There are 3 dates.
Right.
And we're getting close to the second one. And after that, there's only 1 date left, and it's December 1st.
Pierre, do they forgive me for not remembering, they get paid every 2 weeks, the players?
They do, but they don't start getting paid until the first day of the season.
Okay. So their first check will be the 15th then?
Yeah, I would imagine.
With the season starting the 8th, and then it'll go 15th, 1st, 15th. Okay. So when those checks start to go to your teammates and they're not going to you, does it start to take its toll?
I told you.
Each person is different, huh?
Airplane that takes off without the seat sold. The airline's never getting that money back. It's like a piece of fruit that's perishable in a grocery store. If they're not sold by a certain date, they come off the shelf and the grocery store eats the loss. When you're a player and you miss a paycheck, you are like a piece of fruit, or you're like an airplane seat. Wasn't sold, wasn't bought, you're losing.
And I would imagine, I don't know, just my guess, that it's not going to get better than at 8x8 from this point.
I see. Now you're starting to get dramatic, and you're starting.
That's my gut. I don't see it getting better.
You just remember the guy with the hat on is Jimmy.
Yep, I said that for those who aren't watching.
Getting in there, and I will say one other thing. I understand what the agent's doing too, and so I have, like, he's got to respond. His responsibility not to work for the Boston Bruins. His responsibility is to work for Jeremy Swayman. And the other thing too, and I think this is important for the fans to know, his responsibility is Jeremy Swayman and Jeremy Swayman only. And if he's trying to fight for the rest of the league, that's where I would have a problem.
Okay. Enough said. All right, move on. Next question. Alex Imanowski, is it too early to get excited about Fantilli scoring 4 goals last weekend, or Mike Modano Jr., as we call him?
No, I think Alex knows. So the draft was for Fantilli. I remember talking to our friend Scotty Bowman, and he says, "Pierre, you've seen him a lot." I said, "Yeah, going back to when he played at Kimball Union Academy for Timmy Whitehead." Then I, saw him in the Chicago Steel. Obviously, you see him playing at University of Michigan, and my son played against. I've watched them a lot of games, and like, I haven't seen a player. And I saw Modano when he played in Prince Albert. I haven't seen a player remind me of Modano like Fantilli does. And I'm just telling you, they're so similar. So is it? No, he's going to be awesome.
Yeah, he's going to be awesome.
He's going to be awesome. Hey, listen, Jimmy, the only thing I'll say is people say, well, then why did Anaheim take Leo Carlson? They're different players.
Yeah.
They're different.
They identified their need. That was what they needed.
That's what they needed in Anaheim because they had Mason McTavish there.
Yep.
And I'm just telling you, like, Fantilli's a star, and he's a gift. You know how I kept saying it? Jimmy Rutherford was a beneficiary of a lot of Ray Sherrill's work, the gifts that kept on giving when he was in Pittsburgh. Jarmo Kekalainen gave Donnie Waddell a lot of gifts in Columbus. I'm just telling you, Jimmy. Jarmo's not there anymore, but Jarmo and John Davidson gave a lot of gifts to Donnie Waddell. It's not like he's empty, taking this job with nothing on the shelf.
I agree. There's a lot of good prospects. And look, I want to give Pierre credit here, and I've said it before on here. I remember last year heading into the season, probably right about now, we're kind of like looking and doing my previews and saying, is anyone going to challenge? I mean, is it just pretty much a short thing that Bedard's getting the Calder, and Pierre's like, not so fast, in the words of Lee Corso. He said, not so fast. You watch Fantilli. And if Fantilli didn't get hurt, I think that race would have been a lot closer.
He won the Calder last year, Jimmy, if he didn't get hurt.
Yep.
He won the Calder. And look at Bedard got 60 points on a bad team.
Yeah.
Fantilli was on his way to 70 plus.
Yeah. Yep, he was. All right, next question. A to Z me. Gorton seems really impressed with Kapanen. By the way, it was so interesting how he went right to him when you asked that question. Just no hesitation. I found that very interesting. Do you guys see him starting with the Habs for a 10-game stint and then sent back to Sweden, or do you think he might stick around for good? I think he sticks around.
I think he gets a 10-game dress rehearsal And if it's good, he's staying. And you know how he'll know? Probably after game 5 or 6, he's either going to get a call saying, "Can you come meet Kent Hughes or can you come meet Jeff Gordon?" And they're going to say, "Well, you've done really well. Go find a place." Or they're going to say, "You know what? We liked everything you've done. You've had a great camp. We're going to send you back. We're going to send you back." And that's when he's going to know. And it's not going to be anything different than that. It might be Marty St. Louis doing it, but I think it'll either be Kent or Jeff or both of them or all 3 of them.
Yep.
If he does really well, by game 5 or 6, they're going to say, "Go get a place.
All right.
Get out of the hotel and go get a place." And if he doesn't, they're going to say, "We booked your plane ticket. You're going back to Sweden."
I think he makes it. We'll see. All right, next question. Pizza 603, my New Hampshire friend here. Do you guys think this situation is rectifiable now or trade incoming? He's talking about Swayman. I mean, Saros just signed 7.75 times 8 with a longer history of high performance. If Swayman's not taking 8x8, that's crazy.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
I very valid points. I mean, and I think that's one of the main things working against Jeremy Swayman right now is just his smaller body of work to some of his comparables out there. And you know the Bruins are using that. And I think rightfully so. I think, hey, you're in a salary cap world. You gotta watch where you spend your money. And obviously, to me, the goaltending is the most important position. But at the same time, I need to see just a little bit more for him to get into Shesterkin level there, or, you know, upper echelon. I think he's on his way, but he's not there yet.
I'm just going to say that he's in a position where you got to focus on the next 4 years of your career. Because if you don't do well in the next 4, even if you got 4 more after that, it's
tough to recover.
It's probably not going to last as long as you think. So you got to be really smart about this. And I look at Louis Gross is smart. He's done a lot of big deals.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of big contracts, a lot of them. And a lot of his players have done really well. Like he's done a good job for his clients. I give him full marks on that. But I also know on the other side, and this is more of the coach and the management side, there are a lot of guys that get 8-year deals. And you know what happens out of the 4th year? People are thinking 2/3 buyout. You know, there's going to be some dead money.
Or injuries.
But it's the way it goes.
Yep.
You know, you just got to be I'm just telling you, as a player, as a young – and I see people quibbling, and this is my last I want to talk about the negotiation.
Yep.
Well, Cam didn't tell the truth because it's really only 7.8. Okay, so that's 1.6 million out of 64 million. Are you serious? Button up. Seriously.
I know.
And I tell that to anybody that wanted to challenge Cam on that. It'd be are you kidding me? Have you ever done a big contract negotiation? I would say that to somebody because that's grossly unfair. Honest to goodness.
Yeah.
Why don't you ask these people picking on Cam saying, "Well, it's 200,000 less a year"? Why don't you ask him, what's the agent's fee? What do you think the player's paying the agent?
Right. I know. I'm with you on that. All right, let's go on. Next question. JL, I believe that is. Will the Habs try and make a move if PL is on LTIR and they free up cap space? That's Patrick Laney. I don't think yet. I think, hey, Pierre, I think Jeff Gordon, I'll let you tell the listeners and viewers who might have not seen it because you were in on the interview more than me. But the vibe I got was they're looking internally for now.
They're definitely looking internally.
Yeah.
I don't think you spend an asset. So let's say they think their defense is their deepest asset. They've already traded Jordan Harris. I don't think – and Reinbacker's hurt, obviously, 5 to 6 months. So that's pretty significant. 3rd knee injury. I don't think they're in a rush to trade assets to try to fill that hole.
Exactly.
I just think let's see where they are, start the season and go. I mean, look, you got from now until the trade deadline to figure out your team.
And how great is it to have that depth on the blue line now, Pierre? I mean, this is why, like, I don't get some people. Everybody's in such a rush all the time when you have, you know, let's say 9 defensemen that could play in to trade him or whatever. And I don't know who, it might have been Scotty Bowman. I remember just a prominent hockey figure once when I was younger coming up the ranks, the reporter telling me, I think it might have been Scott, you can never have enough defensemen. You just can't.
Well, here's what I know. They have all that defense, and they got a guy at Boston College named Fowler. And I'm just telling you, Jacob Fowler is the real deal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, by the way, too, I know you were talking about sort of making some references to Brodeur in terms of his confidence and its mannerisms. And sure enough, last night, I don't know if you saw Brodeur's son starting for the Devils. That was pretty cool. Jeremy Brodeur. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, any update on NCAA players playing hockey this year to keep an eye on who will be draft eligible in 2025?
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to be coming up with a list of that. We'll probably do that on,
Not this Friday because we got Mike Cavanaugh.
Yeah. But yes, we're working on that right now. Absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of college hockey, just to tease it up, I'm really excited. Our good friend Mike Cavanaugh, UConn Hockey, will be joining us, the head coach. He was on here. I think he might have been on a second on-campus Friday we did last year. So
you know what,
good to have him back.
Great to have him back. They're starting their season Friday. They're playing Colgate at University of Connecticut in Stores. I'm actually going down to go to the game, so I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing I can tell you is that his roster's had some changes, but they've got some exciting young players. And I talked to Mike yesterday, and I know he's really excited about the season.
Good.
This is a good time for all these teams. Everybody's worked so hard. They've had a full month pretty much of skating and hitting each other, and now they get a chance to go beat up somebody else.
Yeah.
I know how hard I hear it. I know how hard a lot of these guys are working. And it's a lot different than when I was playing and coaching. I'll tell you that. It's a lot different.
I agree. I can't wait. Looking forward to it. All right. I think we got a few more left.
Let's get them all. We're not.
We're doing it. GB asks, hello, gentlemen. Do you know of any young players who had multiple knee surgeries that have gone on to reach their full potential? That's a great question.
That's a really good
There's
question.
a lot of concern right now about that.
Yeah, there is. So let me it's not so much the knee, but let me just do this. Erik Karlsson had a horrible injury after a collision with Matt Cook. And a lot of people thought that would really stifle his career because one of the real great characteristics was two-step acceleration. And he worked so hard, Erik Karlsson did, and I don't think it's affected his career at all. Do you, Jimmy?
No.
I don't think it. So with modern medicine being the way it is, it's not like when Bobby Orr got absolutely crushed, with all his surgeries and obviously cut his career short. I think it's a lot better now. And so I'd have to do some research to say, hey, who's had 3, major injuries. But, the truth of the matter is that all we can do is just hope that the kid can bounce back and play because I want all kids to do well.
News breaking just now, 55 seconds ago, the Montreal Canadiens tweeting forward Patrick Lane sustained a sprain to his left knee that will not require surgery. His rehabilitation period is expected to be from 2 to 3 months. Not good, but not as bad as I was expecting, Pierre. And I think the Canadiens are probably saying the same.
No surgery in 2 to 3 months. I want you to say this slowly. Line.
Okay. Line. Yes, but that's, Pierre, it's not, I don't want to say good news because an injury is not good at all, but that's much better.
We all saw from Saturday.
Oh, my gosh.
That's really
I thought
good.
he was done for the year. I really did.
So did most people. And you know what? Again, good on Jeff Gordon because he did that with us.
Yep.
And he didn't rush to judgment. And he waited to hear what the medical expert said.
Mm-hmm.
And, they found out right away on Reinbacher he needed surgery. Boom, he goes in and has surgery. They found out about Line 2 to 3 months. Boom, get it out there. So they've handled it really well in a very hot market. So good for the Canadiens. Good for the Canadiens.
They've done a great job, and Chantal Maccabee is doing a great job with that public relations stuff.
Chantal's really good at her job.
She's amazing. I want to thank her for her help and helping set that Jeff Gordon interview up.
She was great on TV, Jimmy. She was great at RDS. She was a colleague of mine when I started on the radio in Montreal, and she's doing a great job. In a very difficult market for the Montreal Canadiens. Really good.
And she's always been good to me ever since I entered the business going back to like 20 years. So appreciate her help. All right, next question. Good afternoon. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Homework for Pierre for us poolies. Can you let us know who your sleeper players are that will get points but are under the radar? Maybe we'll take time and get back to that.
Can I give you one right now?
Go ahead.
Mason McTavish in Anaheim's going to have a
Love it.
gigantic year. I think Mason McTavish could have a really, really huge year. I think Tyler Toffoli in San Jose, if he stays with Celebrini the entire season, I don't know if he's under the radar or not. I don't.
Yeah, I would say so, Pierre. He's at the end,
But
towards
I
the end of
think
his
that
career.
he's one. I think Tyler Bertuzzi playing with Connor Bedard in Chicago could have a big point total kind of a year. So those are three that I'm just thinking, and there's going to be more. Like I'm just, again, I got to study it, but those are ones that I think. But it didn't take me long to say Mason McTavish. I think he could have a huge year. I really do.
And I'll tell you this too, Pierre. We'll talk about it another time. But I wrote a story, interviewed Greg Cronin, our good friend Anaheim Ducks, talking about Leo Carlson. So I want to talk about that maybe tomorrow. The stuff he had to say about him.
I'm sure the coach likes
Oh
him.
my gosh, what he was saying about his skating and his hockey IQ. It's good stuff. And he had some interesting stuff to say about Trevor Zegras too. But we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Let me just guess. He's got to get his butt in gear. Something along those lines.
To put it nicely. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next question. John Smith. Hey, guys. How do you think Reinbacker's injury will impact Logan Mayhew's season development? You guys are top shelf. Cheers. You are as well, John.
John is awesome. We're so grateful to your questions. You're a hockey man, and I love it. I think it'll be good for Logan. I don't think it hurts Logan.
No.
I hope
more of an opportunity.
Yeah, he gets more. I think what it did, though, it gave Justin Barron probably more of an opportunity and Logan Mayhew more of an opportunity in Montreal. I think both those guys get more of an opportunity now.
All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb, should Boston just trade Swayman? I don't think they're at that point yet, Gabriel, but it's definitely more of a likelihood than it was 48 hours ago, I'd say, but I don't think they're there yet.
We talked about it before. I love Gabriel's avatar, so thank you for doing that, Gabriel. That's awesome stuff. I don't think they're there yet, Gabriel, but I do think if this goes a little longer, I think everything's on the table for Boston.
Yep.
Everything.
And I imagine GMs, it's their job to call and inquire.
I'm not prepared to go there yet.
Yep.
I could do right now, no notes. I could tell you 3 teams. I'm not going to say it because it's gross to do that. But I think of 3 teams right now. If they got Swayman, it changes the dynamic of their team.
Yep.
I'm not saying 10. I'm talking about 3 teams.
I've got 3 as well, and I think we're on the same page. At least 2 out of 3 are the same page. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, I am Team Bruins on this. Swayman seems greedy to me. He's not Igor Vasilevsky. That is, $64 million is way more than fair. When did it become the player is always right on social media during these things? Alex, great stuff. But I've seen kind of a split. From what I see, it's been 50-50 player versus team. But I'm with you. Like I said earlier, I think 8.8 is just right. I think it's perfect.
I don't do the social media. You're looking at my social media man. He's the one that fills me in. But what I would say is I think it's split.
Yeah.
I think there are fans that are really on his side, and they'll always be on the player side, which is good. I think that's good. And then I think there's a bunch of people who say, whoa, wait a second. It's not like he's getting underpaid. So they're going to be on management and ownership side. So I think it's probably it's a 50-50 split. It's 55-45. You know what I mean, Jimmy? Yeah. It's tight either way. But this is where I tell you all the time, Jimmy, this is where it's really important when you're doing these deals. You got to just stay within the confines of the negotiation.
I know. Because now it's all anyone's talking about.
I also think, and that's why I said I think Cam was given the green light to do that.
I think it was strategic. Put the pressure on.
You didn't see Donnie do it. Donnie the week before called out
Spitting Chicklets,
a national media site, and gave it to them. He didn't go after anybody. He just went after the national media site.
Yeah.
He didn't call the player. He didn't call the agent. He went after the media site.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I think Cam knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, I do too. I definitely do. All right, next question. Steve Fowler. What would Swayman's value be on the trade market if it came down to Boston looking to trade him? That's a good question. I've been trying to figure that out too, Pierre. My question, I guess, Pierre, and I'll let you take this, but I would echo Steve's question and say how much if Swayman and his agent come to the Bruins and say, you know what, we think it'd be just better if we part ways and demand a trade. How much does that affect the trade value of someone?
So I'm going to tell you right now, that'd be the worst thing they could do. Because I'll tell you what will happen if they do that.
Mm-hmm.
He will get sent to a place that he will never win in. I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a bad way to approach that.
They also have the right to say, well, then you're just going to sit for the rest of the season and miss the whole year.
You heard what I just said.
Yeah. Yep.
They would put him in a place that he could never win. And
KHL.
you sit and watch. There are two things you can do to a player to punish them. Send in the American Hockey League if they're on a two-way deal and take away their ice time so they can't perform.
Mm-hmm.
Only two ways you can punish a player. And so that would not be a good negotiation tactic by Mr. Gross. I personally, knowing his professionalism, I don't think he would do that.
He's not going to go there. So what is his value in your eyes right now?
I would say rather than look at numbers, you got to look at position. So you traded Olmark. He's gone. You brought back Korpisalo. I would say Olmark is a better player than Korpisalo.
Yes.
Is Brandon Bussey ready to be a starting goalie or a backup goalie in the NHL? I'd say probably not.
Not yet.
Okay,
Agreed.
He's not there yet. Okay, so we're on the same page. So immediately you have to get a goalie.
Yes.
So that would be part of any deal. If I were the Bruins, I'd look at cap space. What's the one thing you could really utilize that would make your team better, slotting-wise? You need a center.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get a goalie and a really good center, you'd be probably – and here's how I would gauge it. Let's just say Elias Lindholm is your number one center.
Right.
And let's just say that Charlie Coyle is your number three center. No, let's say he's your three.
Three.
Because you go out and get a really
And
good
you can slide a 2C. Yep. I like
so now,
that's exactly what I do.
The third thing I'd do, because I wouldn't want to mess with cap, I'd want a first-round pick. So I'd want 3 tangible assets. If I can't, if they say, well, we're not going to give you a first-round pick, then I'll say, okay, I'll take a second.
Okay. And are we talking in terms of the center? You're saying I need roster bodies now, right?
I know the team that I would trade him to, honestly. I told you before.
Yeah.
The 3 teams that I think it would change their dynamic as a group. So I know the teams that I would trade him to. There's one in particular, and I already had this figured out in my mind, but I'm not saying it publicly.
Yeah. No. But, for fun exercise, if people just want to go check out Puckpedia and go to different teams that might need a goalie and then look at what they have in terms of the positions.
Here's how I would do it. You're pretty much nailed it. But the one way I would do it, Jimmy, which team, if they added top-end goalie, has a legitimate chance to go from maybe 3rd seed in their division to 2nd or 1st?
Mm-hmm.
Which team maybe that's 2nd would have a chance to go to 1st? And which team, if they got a goalie, would have a legitimate chance to say, hey, they can compete for the cup? That's how I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not the team that needs a goalie. Who's the one that needs a higher end goalie to
put them over the edge? Yep.
Over the top. That's how I would do it.
Next question. I think we got one more left.
Okay.
State of Survival. What's up, State of Survival? Pierre, what's the toughest, hardest talk you've ever had to have with a player?
It's such a good question. And I remember it clear as day. I was a young coach in Pittsburgh, and they were shuttling me back and forth from Pittsburgh to Muskegon during training camp. And that's just how Craig and the late Badger Bob Johnson and Scotty wanted. I was eventually coming back to coach in Pittsburgh, but they wanted me between both teams to work with the younger players and our older players. And we were cutting a player in Muskegon, and I had to tell him it was the end of the road. He wasn't going to play anymore. He wasn't going to play, probably not going to play pro hockey. And the young man started crying right in front of me. And it was probably the hardest thing outside of my dad dying, on our property. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever had to go through, honestly. I felt terrible. I never felt like that, and you see the young man crying, you go to put your arms around him and try to counsel him and bring him down and say, look, there's a lot of other stuff you can do in hockey if you want to stay in it, but it's not going to happen here. And I promise you, and I told a kid this, I said, I'll help you. Like, I'll write letters for you. I'll make phone calls for you. If you want to go scouting, you want to go coaching, you tell me, and I'll never forget. And I stayed with him a long time, and it was really hard. That was probably the hardest one. And, it's never fun to go
part of the
through.
game. No.
It's all part of it, but it's probably the hardest thing. And I learned it from Scotty. I'll give him credit for this. You can't mess around. You can't tell him how great he was and then say it's over. You got to say, I have bad news for you.
And just get right to the point.
It's not going to work for you here. Here's why it's not going to work for you here. I want you to stay in hockey if you want to stay in hockey. It's probably not going to happen as a player. And you just explain it to him. But if you don't do it that way, then the player, it's disingenuous to the player.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest one. That's the hardest one.
Oh, that's got to be tough. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank.
Right after that was over, there used to be a steakhouse outside the arena in Muskegon called the Tahota House. It was a good steakhouse in Muskegon, and I went right over there and I was like, oh man, I don't even feel like eating. I was so, but I had a big steak and a nice glass of rouge, and I got on the plane and flew to Detroit and then back to Pittsburgh.
And do you ever cross paths with him or keep in touch with him down the line?
No, I never did. You know what? He never got involved in hockey.
Okay. You just left the game altogether.
A really sad story, actually.
That's tough.
And I remember it's one of the ones after that would have been in 1991. So what is it, 33 years ago?
Yep.
I'll never forget that.
Ouch. Well, we appreciate that story, Pierre, and appreciate all your answers today. And of course, all our questions in the Q&A and our production staff back in Montreal. And tomorrow, Pierre, we're going to continue the Atlantic Division, the Adams Division. Who do we got on tap there, Pierre? I think we had, let's see. We got we're doing Florida. All Florida Day tomorrow. Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers, defending Stanley Cup champions. I'm trying to line up a guest still for that. So hopefully we can get that. If not, Pierre and I will break it down for you. And then, of course, we'll close it out on Thursday with the Bruins and the Maple Leafs, and then on campus Friday with Mike Cavanaugh, UConn, to close out the week. But until then, this has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.